Yo, what's really good with it? We certainly are out here. Today we are out here at my new studio out in the wilderness by the train tracks. And we're talking about tipping and tipping culture and why I think it needs to go. So I'm planning on calling this video "Tipping is a Scam." And I don't actually think it's a scam, so gotcha. But I think in the worst case scenario, which is often the chosen scenario for most restaurants, I think it often is a scam. But in the best case scenario, it's price obfuscation. That's what we're gonna call it. And so let me kind of unpack that with another example. So, have you ever been to another country where tax is not included, or taxes is included in the price? So like when you find something in the aisle, the price tag is the same amount that you pay at the counter. Like, what a fucking novel idea, right? Like, the price on the item is what you actually pay. Crazy, right? Or maybe you're from a country where it operates like that, and you've come to Canada or the States and you've brought something to the counter expecting to pay, you know, what's on the price tag, and then surprise, you gotta pay more. Like, what a shit deal, right? I'm pretty sure basically everyone who's been in that situation probably agrees with me there, right? That the price, that it makes sense for the price on the price tag to be the price that you pay. So why don't we have that in North America? Well, it's because in North America, we don't care about the customer, we care about the business. And with price obfuscation, the business has an opportunity, however small it may be, to get more money from the customer than they're willing to spend, or that they want to spend, or than they're comfortable spending. And it's through, there's a million circumstances. But like, for instance, let's say you're shopping for, I don't know, like a dish dry rack, and you want to spend like $15, and you find one for like 13 and change. I don't know, I haven't done the math, but like, let's say in your head you're thinking, okay, yeah, it should come to about 15. You bring it to the counter and it comes to like a little more, maybe like 16. And you're thinking, you know, it's more than I wanted to spend, but I've already brought it to the counter. I don't want to have to go and find another one. Or maybe you're thinking, oh, the cashier's kind of cute, I don't want her to think that I'm a cheapskate. Or maybe you're buying it online and you've already filled out a bunch of information and you don't want to have to go back. You have sunken costs already, okay? And so that is how the businesses benefit from price obfuscation in this form of taxes not included in the price tag. Okay, and so tipping is just kind of another example of price obfuscation. But when you have one layer of price obfuscation stacked on another layer, that's where you have the opportunity to create scams. And I think, so that's where we get to the title of today's video. And what I'm talking about is when you're ready to pay the bill at a restaurant, they give you the machine and it has the automated prompts, you know, 15%. No, it's not, it's never 15% anymore. It's minimum 20%, 25%, 30% are the typical options, at least where I live in Canada. And first of all, that's fucking outrageous, but we'll get to that in a second. But so those numbers are almost always calculated with tax, like with tax. So basically, you're not paying 20%, you're paying like 23% because an extra 15% of 20% is like 3%. So that means you're paying 23%, but it says you're only paying 20%. But tax was never supposed to be calculated like that. Tax is supposed to be calculated before tax, or sorry, tips are supposed to be calculated, tips as a percentage are supposed to be before tax. So you may be thinking, oh, you know, it's such a minuscule amount, you know, it's what's an extra 3%? A scam is a scam is a scam. It doesn't matter how much you're scamming for. If anything, you could argue that it's worse to scam someone for such a small amount because you're compromising your morals for such a small amount. But that's neither here nor there. Basically, any restaurant owner that does this, that programs their machines like this, you know, maybe it's just hard not to, maybe. But either way, it doesn't matter. If you do this, you're no better than the Indian guy in the call center yelling, "Why did you redeem it?" You know, you're a scammer if you do this. So that's why it's a scam. But I'll get into why I also think that the whole narrative behind people who are pro-tipping is just disingenuous. So the whole reason why you're supposed to tip your server is because minimum wage laws, at least in the States now, but in Canada before, the laws didn't apply to servers. So they didn't make minimum wage. So they relied on customer generosity basically to subsidize their wage so that they could make a reasonable wage, which in and of itself is fucked. Like, that doesn't make any sense. It's stupid. But let's pretend that it's not stupid. So in Canada, up until a few years ago, it was like that. But then they changed it. So servers now make at least minimum wage, right? But has that changed the expectation of what you're supposed to tip them? No. If anything, it's gone up since then. Think about all the effort that it takes to get your food onto your plate before the server brings it to you. So if you're eating like vegetables, they have to be planted, they have to be watered and grown, they have to be harvested, they have to be shipped, they have to be stored properly, they have to be cooked, they have to be like seasoned and garnished. And then if it's meat, it has to be, you know, birthed, it has to be fed, it has to be slaughtered, it has to be sent to the butcher, and then again it has to be cooked, seasoned, garnished before it goes on the plate. Okay, so all of that, any one of those processes requires more time, effort, energy than just bringing the plate to the table. Yet for some reason bringing that plate to the table inflates the price by an extra at least 20%. Get the fuck out of here. And you might be saying, oh, well, no, servers do a lot more than just bring the food to the table. Like, my soft skills are off the chain, man. Like, I charm the pants off my customers. And it's like, great, I'm sure you do, good for you, but like, a lot of us don't give a shit about that. A lot of us couldn't care less if you just slam the food down on the table and take off. Don't ask us how it is, you know? Like, all I really care about when I go to a restaurant, which I haven't gone to a restaurant in Canada for like a year because I just don't like tipping. So, and I don't want to be the guy that doesn't tip. So I basically like vote with my wallet, and I don't go to places anymore where I'm expected to tip, or I do it very seldom. But yeah, all I really care about is like how fast the food comes. But I shouldn't have to pay extra for you to not twiddle your thumbs, you know? And another thing is like, let's say two people go to a restaurant. One person orders the steak, one person orders the chicken. The server's doing the exact same thing for both orders. They're bringing like, soft skills aside, they're bringing the food to the table. So why does the person who ordered the steak have to pay more to the server? I get that they have to pay more to the house because it costs more, but the server's not doing anything differently in those scenarios. So it doesn't make sense that I would have to tip the server more because he brought me a plate with steak on it rather than chicken. Look at this cool thing, what I found. In Japan, if you leave a tip, it's considered very insulting because you're basically saying, you have a shit job and I pity you, so here's some extra money. And if we're being real, that's exactly what it is. It's just, we don't really recognize that here because it's become so normalized. But like, normalize not normalizing shit that's not normal, because tipping is not normal. It doesn't make sense. It should be viewed as disrespectful. I'm gonna sign off by reminding you about one of the opening scenes in Reservoir Dogs where Mr. Pink talks about how the people who work at McDonald's, they hustle just as hard as the people who work at your local steakhouse. So why are we not tipping them? And the reason we're not tipping them is because if we were expected to tip McDonald's workers, then no one would go to McDonald's anymore, and it wouldn't be good for business. So, and it's not about the money, it's not about being cheap, because I would rather go to a place where gratuity is included in the menu, even if it means I'm paying more, because I would rather pay more to not feel like I'm living in a clown world. I'd pay more to reward people who are not going to obfuscate the price and people who are going to operate with transparency. Anyway, that's all. Bye.